Welcome to the show where we break down the mental health stigma, navigate sobriety with humor, and prove that it's okay to laugh while you heal. Let's get real, let's get honest, and maybe a little weird. Growth is messy, but you don't have to do it alone. This is Sober Psychology. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sober Psychology, the show where I, your host, Michael, a guy with just enough psychological knowledge to be dangerous, tries to make sense of why we're all so wonderfully screwed up. I did say wonderfully, by the way, so check that. But today we're diving into insecurity, that little voice in your head that says that everyone in the room is judging your laugh right after you've done one of those weird, snort laughs. That's what we're talking about, that feeling. But full disclosure, I prepped this at 2 a.m. after multiple scripts. I finally settled on one. So the irony of feeling insecure while doing a script on insecurity is not lost on me. I want to go ahead and just be transparent there. We're all about transparency on this page. Anyways, buckle up because we're going to do a deep dive on why we all secretly think that we suck despite evidence to the contrary. First off, I want to define what insecurity actually is, because it's not just the feeling awkward when you can't remember someone's name for the third time, although that is pretty excruciating. Psychologically speaking, insecurity is the persistent feeling that you're fundamentally inadequate or unworthy in some way. It's not just normal doubt. It's doubt on steroids that's moved into your mental spare bedroom and refuses to pay rent. So there's what psychologists call situational insecurity, like being nervous before a date. That's normal, completely normal. Then there's what I call core security, and that is the persistent feeling that you're a fraud and everyone's about to find out. And that's the one that'll have you rehearsing small talk in the shower. It's also along the lines of imposter syndrome. I took this personality test online last week that was supposed to measure my insecurity levels, and my results came back as being simultaneously confident and cripplingly insecure. So I guess that's a psychological achievement. I don't know. But the funny thing about insecurity is that recognizing it actually reduces its power. It's like seeing the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. Once you spot the mechanism, it loses some of its magic. So congrats. Okay. Shameless plug here. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but just by listening to a podcast about insecurity, you're already chipping away at your insecurity. Congratulations. Or you're creating new ones. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. So why are we like this? Well, you can blame evolution, baby. Our ancestors lived in small tribes where social rejection wasn't just awkward, it was a death sentence. So if the tribe kicked you out for being annoying at the feast where you're eating mammoth, you're going to eventually become saber-tooth food by lunchdown. Or by lunchdown? What the frick? You're going to become saber-tooth food by sundown. There we go. That's what I'm trying to get at. So it's a survival mechanism, okay? And we see this pretty consistently with all of these episodes, right? A lot of these, what we would consider negative characteristics, qualities, whatever, they're survival techniques, somewhere or another rooted in that. But this is why criticism feels so threatening. Your brain processes social rejection in the same regions that it processes physical pain. Hear me say that again. Your brain is going to process social rejection in the exact same compartment that it's going to process physical pain. Okay? That's important. When someone quote unquote hurts your feelings, your brain literally experiences it like an injury. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you all this now. Evolution did not prepare for Twitter, folks. It was not ready. Ever had the moment where someone doesn't laugh at your joke and you spend the next 3 hours mentally replaying it and then contemplating moving to another state? Your rational brain knows that this is ridiculous, but your cave person brain is screaming that the tribe is going to banish you for bad humor. So now you start to see the survival technique behind this. Evolution equipped us with this hypersensitive social radar that's now completely overloaded in the modern world. It's like having a smoke detector that goes off when you light a candle, cook toast, or think too intensely about spicy food. Understanding this doesn't immediately fix anything, but it does explain why you're lying awake at 3 a.m. remembering that time in 2013 when you went in for the kiss on your crush, and instead of connecting with her mouth, you somehow or another kissed the side of her nose. You know, your brain isn't broken, it's just running outdated software. So beyond our evolutionary wiring, our childhood experiences are basically insecurity boot camp. Here's where attachment theory comes in, which is basically psychology's way of saying your relationship with your caregivers affects literally everything forever. So no pressure, parents. As a new parent, it's terrifying to look into all this, but this is attachment theory. Kids with secure attachment develop this internal model that says, I'm worthy of love just as I am. And then kids with inconsistent caregiving, they often develop models like, I must achieve to be loved, or no one can be trusted to stick around. And then we drag these models into our adulthood like emotional baggage. So again, you've got one model of it where you have the healthy parents, you have the consistent caregivers, you don't have divorce or people popping in and out of your lives. And those are the ones that they realize very quickly, I'm worthy of love just as I am, right? Then you have the other kids on the other end of the spectrum. I'm in this category where it's inconsistent caregiving. And then you develop this, I gotta, in order for me to be loved, I have to achieve something great, right? Or no one can be trusted to stick around. So it's that fear of abandonment that starts to feel, and the fear of failure, all of these fears start to creep in. And this isn't about parent blaming, by the way. Most parents are doing their best with their own emotional baggage. But again, this is where the generational curse that we've talked about in previous episodes comes into play. It's just dysfunction passing through generations like a weird family heirloom that nobody wants, but everyone inherits. All right. There's this really fascinating study where kids who were praised for their intelligence, so like, you're so smart, oh my gosh, you're so incredibly intelligent, you know, whatever, they develop more insecurity than the kids who are praised for effort. Which that's what that sounds like, is like, you worked really hard on that, you know? So again, I'm going to say that again because I think I glossed over that, or maybe I got distracted, but there's a fascinating study where kids praised for their intelligence develop more insecurity than kids praised for their effort. The first group becomes very terrified of looking dumb. It's that fear of failure, fear of inadequacy, whatever. While the second group develop resilience. So maybe when a kid shows you their drawing, don't just say, oh my gosh, you're so talented. Say, you know, wow, look at all those dinosaurs that you drew. You really focused on the teeth. So you're praising effort, right? I think I fall into this category too as a you know, I'm the first child, I'm the firstborn, and I was always praised for how smart I was. And I can already see me doing this with my child, my son that we just had, you know, 2 months ago. And that scares me, right? Because that's an easy thing. That doesn't mean that you have bad parents. That just means that's an easy thing for a parent to do, right? But those kids that get praised for their intelligence, they oftentimes subconsciously will develop this reward-based system of needing to be loved. They need to do something great in order to be loved. And that's what I've done. That's why I try and prove myself all the time. It's an insecurity, right? Versus just praising the effort. You know, oh, you worked so hard on that. Or how, like, what do you like about it? That's the question that I've been really psyching myself up for with my son. When he gets old enough to start doing things where he wants to show me, I'm like, what do you like about that? I want him to feel good about the effort that he put in. I don't want to just praise him for the gifts or talents. You know, there is time for that, sure, but it lets you see both sides. So the takeaway here is that insecurity is not a character flaw. It's a learned response based on what you needed to do to feel safe and loved as a kid. So be gentle with yourself. You're just running old survival programs. That's all you're doing. Now let's talk about the incredible mental parkour that your brain does to maintain insecurity. It deserves an Olympic medal, honestly. But first, there's the confirmation bias. And this is where your brain cherry picks evidence that confirms that you suck while ignoring everything else. If you get 10 compliments and 1 criticism, guess which one that you'll be thinking about while staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., right? A while back, I gave a presentation to my class where 15 people commented on it being good. They really liked it. And then there was one person who said that my examples were a bit confusing. Guess which one I obsessed about for the next week? Not the 15 people. The one confusion comment held me up. My brain was like, finally, the truth is revealed. You're indeed terrible. That's just the way insecurity works. And then there's what I call the if only trap. If only I were more confident, fit, successful, funny, then I'd be worthy. It's a psychological treadmill where the finish line keeps moving. You get the promotion you wanted, but now you need the corner office. You get the corner office, and now you need the bigger bonus. It's never going to end. But the most fascinating part is how insecurity makes us behave in ways that actually reinforce the insecurity. So for example, perfectionism. And I'm going to say the word and then set examples for you, but perfectionism, it'll tell you, if I set impossible standards, I'll never have to face my fear of inadequacy, except you will, constantly. Or if you're into people pleasing, if I become whatever everyone wants, no one will ever reject me, except you're rejecting yourself continuously. You're putting on a mask, right? Or procrastination. If I ever finish it, or if I never finish it, no one can tell me it's bad. It's genius, except for the whole never accomplishing anything part. And then you have the preemptive self-criticism. I'll insult myself first so no one else can. And it's a classic strategy that absolutely destroys your self-worth. Okay? I'm guilty of all of these. I've got drafts of half-written social media posts that I'll never finish because in my mind, an unfinished brilliant post is better than a finished mediocre one, which is completely nonsense. But try telling my insecurity that. Here's the cosmic joke about all of it, though. These protective barriers actually strengthen our underlying insecurity. The perfectionist who never finishes anything lacks evidence that they can succeed. The people pleaser never experiences being accepted for who they really are because you're just pretending to be what everybody wants you to be. It's like treating your fear of water by avoiding swimming pools and then concluding that you were right to be afraid because you never learned to swim. The logic is impeccable, but tragically flawed. Now let's talk about the modern technology and how that has given steroids to our insecurity. I'm going to tell y'all, this was terrifying to look into, by the way. When you look at statistics, I didn't even put the statistics in here because it's bad. Social media platforms are essentially insecurity accelerators and environments precisely calibrated to trigger our evolutionary comparison mechanisms. Your brain didn't evolve to see the highlight reels of 500 people simultaneously, okay? I spent 20 minutes on Instagram yesterday and came away convinced that everyone else is on a perpetual vacation in Bali, has perfect skin, and eats photogenic acai bowls every meal. And meanwhile, I was eating cereal wearing sweatpants in my kitchen while scrolling. And studies show that Instagram browsing activates the same brain regions involved in social comparison and status assessment. We're using Stone Age brains to navigate digital environments designed by tech companies to monopolize our attention. Hold up, get closer, here we go again. We're using Stone Age brains to navigate digital environments designed by tech companies to monopolize our attention, and it's working. There's something darkly hilarious. Is darkly a word? Darkly, yeah. It sounds weird. Charles Darkly. There's something darkly hilarious about this evolutionary mismatch. Our ancestors developed insecurity to help them navigate groups of maybe 150 people, and now that same mechanism processes information about thousands of connections across global networks. It's like using a stone axe to perform brain surgery. The tool just was not designed for the task. The paradox of modern connectivity is that it simultaneously increases our social comparison while decreasing meaningful connection. We know more about others, yet feel less known ourselves. I'm telling y'all, this one was tough. It was tough. So now let's talk about how gender plays into this whole insecurity game, because society has thoughtfully assigned us different flavors of inadequacy based upon our gender. How considerate. Research consistently shows different insecurity patterns across genders. Women report higher insecurity about physical appearance, while men report higher insecurity about career success and status. This isn't biological destiny. It's social conditioning about what makes you valuable, put that in quotes, by the way, based on gender. I did this experiment once where I asked friends to complete the sentence. I said to them, I would finally feel secure if, and the gender patterns were painfully predictable. Women mentioned appearance and relationship security. Men mentioned money and respect. We're all chasing different versions of quote unquote enough based on what society has told us matters. And what I find both fascinating and ridiculous is how these insecurities are monetized. Women's appearance insecurities fuel the beauty industry. Go look at statistics on how much the beauty industry is racking in every year. And all it takes is for one commercial, one social convincing of telling women that they need this or that, or that you're not beautiful unless you have this. You know, it just sucks. But then you also have the men's status insecurities, which sell luxury cars and watches, because men just want the status, right? We want someone to know that we made it. We work real hard for our money, whatever. Our collective insecurities basically power the economy, and that's really sad. I, for a while in my life, wanted to get into advertising, probably because I was a drunk and one of my favorite shows was Mad Men. And I convinced myself I was going to get into advertising. And I'm a marketing guy too, by the way. Like that's pretty much 80% of my background with work. It is sickening. It is sickening. If you go and look at how marketing and advertising has changed for years and years and years, our economy. I mean, you look at the association of what Santa Claus is with Coca-Cola. You look at the way that they put beer ads lower so kids can see them and start to in early years of development start to go ahead and get that brand recognition. It's just sickening. But they poach on us for our insecurities. I've spent an embarrassing amount of money on fitness gadgets that promise to give me visible abs, which I was convinced would finally make me secure. Like, that's what it is. All I need is the six pack. And here's the spoiler alert. I bought an ab roller. I mean, I've bought like 3 ab rollers in my life. I've used them each maybe twice. And then now it serves as an excellent dust collector under my bed. I mean, that's just the reality of how we are, right? I need this next thing. This next thing is going to promise me this because the commercial said so. The advertisement said so. And then you get it and then you don't use it, right? Or you use it enough and then it's like, okay, I finally achieved that. Let's say that I did get the 6-pack abs that I was looking for from the ab roller, which used to be on the infomercials after 9 o'clock at night, right? And it didn't do it for me. I got the 6-pack. I'm still the same miserable, insecure wretch. Look at there. My insecurity remains dust-free and active as ever, just the way it is. The common thread across all of these gendered insecurities is the fundamental question, am I enough as I am? The metrics change, but the underlying psychological mechanism remains the same. And by the way, this isn't new. This is a human condition, right? We have constantly dealt with this, and this is tough. And this might be a segue, but I always try and find a way to just like give y'all the brutal honesty here. I struggle a lot with insecurity, and I have my whole life, day in and day out, even to this day. I mean, being healthier mentally than I've ever been in my life, being sober, and getting through all of what I have gone through, I struggle with insecurity a lot. And for me, it's an identity thing. Where am I finding my firm foundation in who I am? Right? Is it in the amount of likes that I get on my social media? Is it the success that I can have with a new project like podcasting that I start up? I mean, for me, my identity has to come from my higher power. We've talked about this a lot. I'm never going to shy away from the fact that I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I have a relationship with God, and that has completely changed my life. It's a 180-degree turn from where I used to be without God, or when I was trying to run away. But the reality is that I gotta find my identity in the Creator, right? That's the way it is for me. It can't be in the vehicle I drive. It can't be in the clothes I wear. It can't be in my intellect. It can't be in any of that. It can't even be in my family. And this is a hard thing to realize, like I think I'm a good husband. I think I'm going to be a great dad. I know that I'm a good employer. I know that I'm a really good student. I know that I'm a good friend. But the thing is that I'm a good husband. That's for my wife. I'm a good father. That's for my child. I'm a good employer. I'm a good employee. That's for my employer. I'm a good friend. That's for my other friends. But who am I for me at the end of the day? And that's a tough question. We've been wrestling with that since the beginning of humanity, right? So where are you finding your security? Who are you? Right? And that's where a lot of the insecurity comes from, is that a lot of what we put our identity in, things that are vapors. They're just cast out into the wind. It's here one day and then it's gone the next. You want to find your foundation in something that's stable, right? So now let's talk about what you've all been waiting for, how to actually deal with this mess. First, let's be clear, the goal isn't to eliminate insecurity entirely. Like last week when we talked about ego, we're not looking to eliminate it entirely. That's impossible nor desirable. Some level of self-assessment and social awareness is healthy. The goal is to stop insecurity from being the primary driver of your decisions. And here's some strategies that I think actually work. And then according to the research that I looked up, they prove to work. But then this is also my own highly unscientific personal experience. This one I don't do as much, but for the sake of the script, I just went along with it. But you can name your insecurity. Name that inner voice in your head. All right. So start noticing when insecurity is speaking. I named mine Harold. When I catch myself in an insecurity spiral, I think, oh, Harold's talking again. And this creates distance between you and the thought. I know it sounds cheesy and I know it sounds weird, but this is the whole purpose behind this is to create distance between you and the thought. We've talked about this in a previous episode too. You've got the amygdala, which is going to process those crazy emotions. It's the alarm system. Hey, I have this emotion. And then you have the prefrontal cortex, which is going to be the decision maker. That's the adult in the situation, the logical thinker. Anytime you have some high level of an emotion, anxiety, stress, insecurity, whatever it is, you want to start picking it apart. And just by doing that, by naming it, by giving it a name, by distancing yourself from it, it throws it into that prefrontal cortex. And then you're able to really start to decipher and pick it apart. I'm telling y'all, if you can get into this practice, it takes work, but if you can get into that practice, it really starts to change the way that your brain works and processes emotion, right? Another way to do this is to challenge the story. Again, this is what I was just talking about, but insecurity tells very convincing stories that often collapse under scrutiny. So try asking, what actual evidence supports this insecure belief? Or what evidence contradicts it? Or if my friend felt this way, would I tell them? Or what would I tell them? And then what's a more balanced perspective? So these are just quick questions that you can ask to start to really function in that emotion, in that insecurity. It's in that prefrontal cortex now. Now I'm breaking it down. The one that I like the most in that is, if my friend felt this way, what would I tell them? I ask people this all the time. Would you speak to your best friend the way that you speak to yourself? Okay, we're so harsh on ourselves. And guys, I'm right there with you. There is really nothing that anybody can say harmful to me that I haven't already said to myself in a worse way. And the way that I speak to myself, I would never speak to anybody else, at least not in the right mind. Okay. So that's something to focus on. Just get it to the point where you're thinking through it. Last month, I was convinced that everyone hated my podcast episode on codependency. And then when I actually checked the feedback, there was a lot of positive comments. But there was one person who said that my audio quality could be better. Not saying they're wrong, but Harold, my insecurity voice there had conveniently ignored all the positive evidence. That's tough. And that's one of those things that I struggle with a lot, is putting myself out there in a podcast format. Because look, you're going to tell me something negative, that's fine. Something critical, that's fine. I'll dwell on it. And that's something that I've been working on with myself. And that's why this podcast has been great for me. It's helping me grow. Another way to work through this is do the scary thing imperfectly. I'm saying this to myself big time, but you can't think your way out of insecurity. You have to act your way out of insecurity. Get closer when I say that to you. You cannot think your way out of insecurity. You have to act your way out of insecurity. It takes action, I'm telling y'all. This means gradually exposing yourself to the situations that trigger the insecurity while dropping the protective barriers. This is a tough practice, I'm telling y'all. For perfectionists, this means deliberately submitting the good enough work. For people pleasers, it could mean expressing unpopular opinions sometimes. I have crippling perfectionism. And every week when I set out to make one of these episodes, I'll write a script, I'll delete it, I'll write it again. 3 or 4 days later, I still don't have an idea of a script. It's tough. That's part of the reason that I do this podcast, is that it helps me get stronger at being okay with not being perfect. And I mean, I also hope that you're getting something out of it, but you know, it's just our reality there. And another way to work on the insecurity is talk to yourself like you're not an enemy. This is the mindset shift, the mindfulness, the mindset stuff that we've talked about over and over again, where you just have to learn to give yourself the affirmations, to care about yourself. But research shows that self-compassion, treating yourself with the kindness that you'd offer a struggling friend, reduces insecurity more effectively than trying to boost self-esteem. When I catch myself in harsh self-judgment, I try to shift to, this is really hard right now. Everyone struggles with this sometimes. How can I be kind to myself in this moment? And it felt cheesy at first, but like I was trying to parent myself almost, but gradually it became more natural. And I still remember recording my first podcast and hating the sound of my voice. Instead of the usual, you sound like an idiot, I tried, hey, it takes courage to put yourself out there. Nice job for showing up. Just something simple like that. And the last one is connect with what actually matters to you. The most powerful antidote to insecurity is connecting with your core values. That's a big one. Insecurity flourishes when we're disconnected from what truly matters to us. So ask yourself, if insecurity weren't making your decisions, what would? And what do you genuinely care about beyond others' approval? Okay. I realized that even if my deepest insecurities were true, even if I was less intelligent or less interesting than I hoped, I still valued creating conversations that make people feel less alone. And this value-aligned action gradually reduced my insecurity because it shifted focus from self-evaluation to contribution. This is what step 12 is in the 12-step program. We're now going to take all of this and we're going to go help others. I say this, that's my sign off in every episode, is go help somebody. It's a way to take yourself out of yourself, and it's a way to be of service. Because when all you're thinking about is your insecurity, you're gonna crawl into a little hole and you're gonna be of no use to anybody. But the moment that you can go and help somebody else and be useful to somebody, even if it's just calling somebody and saying, hey, I love you, I appreciate you a lot, I value our friendship, whatever it is, doesn't have to be anything grand, but that all of a sudden takes the attention off of you. Now you're focused on somebody else. And that's a very good practice to get into. That's what our program is with AA. It's given this to other people now. The people who helped me get sober, someone helped them get sober. It just goes on and on and on, right? So here's something weirdly counterintuitive. The stuff that we're most insecure about, the parts that we try hardest to hide, are often the very things that would connect us most deeply to others if we shared them. Okay? Insecurity drives us to hide our authentic selves, while vulnerability involves willingly revealing them. Yet research suggests that embracing appropriate vulnerability actually reduces insecurity over time. Before I got sober, I would never tell someone what I was really struggling with. I had to be perfect. I had to be Superman. I had to hide it and push it all down and act like everything's okay, right? And it was just this fake harmony that I was presenting. And then it wasn't until I went into rehab and I connected with these other addicts, alcoholics, these king turds on shit mountain. And I learned that my vulnerability, me being honest with them about what I'm struggling with, is the thing that makes me connect with them on such a deep level, right? The insecurity goes away. You mean to tell me that you're a monster too, that you're pathetic and you're worthless and whatever. And nobody is. Nobody is. That's the best part. All I have to do is be vulnerable, and then it starts opening doors. You know how many doors have been opened with me just being honest and putting myself out there into the world? I've had so many people that message me, people I would have never spoken to my entire life, but that vulnerability allows other people to connect with me. I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm a screwed up individual just trying to make it through life. I'm figuring it out slowly but surely, but I'll probably never have the answer, but at least I'm trying day in and day out. Along the way, I'll just tell you how I've struggled. And you start to connect with people in a magical way. There's something beautifully ironic here. We hide our insecurities because we fear rejection, yet sharing them often creates deeper connection. And meanwhile, the perfectly curated image that we present to avoid rejection actually prevents genuine acceptance. This is so important in relationships too. If you get into a relationship and you think that you're going to hide all your BS, and then that relationship grows, and then all of a sudden you're now wanting to marry this person, well, what version are they marrying? You put up all these walls and you hid behind all of this look of perfection, this mask that you decided to put on. You think that that's not going to be just taken off at some point? They're going to figure out who you are. You might as well just be honest. And if they can't accept you for what you've done in your past, if they can't accept you for the mental struggles that you deal with, that's your answer right there. You don't need to be in that relationship. Back on off. And that's just how we need to start rewiring. And I mean, how much more do you connect with an actor when they're honest? I've seen so many actors now, so many people with public platforms, athletes too, musicians, finally coming out and talking about their sobriety. And for me, that warms my heart so much. Do you know how much courage that freaking takes to have that platform and to have so many people, kids, looking up to you, and for you to be honest about what you struggle with? It's a beautiful thing. I'm telling y'all, it is not just for a particular situation. It's across the board. You'll have deeper friendships. You'll have better relationships, things that last, because now you get to be you. You don't have to hide anymore. You don't have to waste any of this energy trying to be someone that you're not. You don't have to have that feeling of insecurity. It'll still come back, but at least you have someone that accepts you in that, right? Anyways, we've covered a lot today, from our cave-dwelling ancestors to Instagram's psychological impact to strategies for working with insecurity. So let me leave you with this thought. Insecurity isn't evidence of weakness, but of humanity. Insecurity isn't evidence of weakness, but humanity. Okay, we're going to do our zoom in. Insecurity is not evidence of weakness, but humanity. Now we're going to go over here, right? Insecurity is not evidence of weakness. It's evidence of humanity. Cool. The capacity to question ourselves while uncomfortable reflects the sophisticated social awareness that makes us human. The problem isn't having insecurity. It's being unaware of how it shapes our choices. Transforming your relationship with insecurity isn't a one and done achievement. There's no graduation ceremony where you're awarded a certificate of complete security. It's more like developing a different relationship with an overprotective friend who means well, but often just gives terrible advice. I still deal with insecurity daily. The difference is now I recognize it for what it is, which is just an outdated protection mechanism. That's all it is, rather than the authoritative voice of truth about my worth. And maybe the opposite of insecurity isn't certainty, but curiosity. When we're curious about ourselves and others, we create space for exploration rather than harsh evaluation. Curiosity asks, what's happening here, rather than, am I good enough? That's when I realized insecurity doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It often means you're doing something that matters. The question isn't whether you'll feel insecure when pursuing meaningful work, but how you'll respond when those feelings arise. So here's to all of us insecure humans doing scary things anyway. Your insecurity doesn't make you weak. It makes you normal. And acknowledging it makes you brave. As always, thank you guys for listening. Love y'all very much. Thank y'all for reaching out on socials, connecting with me there. If you have any questions, hit me up. You can email me. You can hit me up on any of the social media stuff. Still trying to do TikTok. I'm a 35-year-old first-time dad with a 2-month-old. So consistency is difficult, but thank y'all for real, for tuning in and for keeping up. Thank you for all the YouTube comments. Thank you for all the love. You guys are great. As always, keep your head up, keep your heart open, go help somebody. We'll catch you next time.